Welcome to Chads by Christ, a show about Catholic lads living Catholic lives. I'm Shali.
I'm Sean.
Desh, I kind of missed you last week. We didn't release an episode last week.
Yeah. It's been busy couple weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Like before we do the refresher, like I'll explain why we were absent.
Yeah.
Basically, like a relative of mine passed away, and so I had to ship off to Sydney,
Mm,
interstate, for a funeral. And so like I lost the whole week, and I just couldn't make it work.
mm.
But yeah, so yeah, sorry about not uploading, guys, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah.
But yeah, can you? I don't know. It's been a while, but like, are you able to refresh me on what our last episode was about?
Our last episode was so much to. Oh yeah, so our last episode I think was us talking about time management.
Oh yeah, the one where I was burnt out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Are you less burnt out now?
yeah, less. Um,
That's
Probably gonna get burnt out again at the end of this week, but it is what it is.
yeah.
Uh, we are recording the Monday after Father's Day as well, so happy Father's
Mm-hmm.
Day to all the fathers
Mm-hmm.
who who father. Yeah.
Father.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
yeah, I mean that's not restricted to just parent fathers either, like priests, anyone that like caregives for someone,
Yep.
like any father like figure that caregives someone, teaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Fathers and or father adjacent figures who father and
Mm.
or father adjacent figure.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't work. Anyway. Yeah. So that's what I remember. Now, last episode we wanted to we hoped that our next episode would be less depressing. Um. And so between that and a funeral, I have had the great idea to talk about martyrdom again. That's
Mm.
less depressing, right?
Yeah.
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 Keeping on the topic of death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but no, more specifically, what I wanted to explore today, without any
Yeah.
like prep, as always, just sort of spitballing until we get a conclusion,
Classic.
as is, the go of our show. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to explore was an idea that's sort of been living in the back of my mind for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a part of me that thinks that like martyrdom is a quote unquote easy way to be holy.
Mm-hmm.
Like an easy path to being like declared a saint is to just die for the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a part of me that's like, so this is gonna sound real bad. Like there's a part of me that like wants to die because like it's easy. I get to do the whole saint thing without actually doing anything, right? Quote unquote doing anything.
There's a bit more to that, isn't there? Just a bit.
What to my thoughts or to
To
being
die, to
holy?
death. Well, both.
Uh,
Like it's not you die, you become a saint.
no, it is not. Um, no, because when was the last episode we did on martyrdom? We sort of touched on it with how like it's not the
Um,
kamikaze mentality,
about 10 ago-ish, maybe a bit
and
more than that. Time flies.
yeah,
But
times do
yeah,
fly.
yeah. Like the Saints were great figures, like the best, really. Like they were the best of us. Um, and yeah, like it's definitely like good to like look up to them. But I don't know, like the Saints did such extraordinary things. Like they truly lived for the Lord. So it's sometimes like I don't know, like I don't know if it's just me, but like it feels like it's sort of hard to live up to because we're all called to be saints, but like these people did, great things for the Lord.
Mm.
And of course they started like most of them started small, and they worked their way up to doing great things. They didn't, what's the saying? They didn't build Rome in a day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're going
Kind
for.
of. Yeah, I know,
Um,
but yeah, like they didn't, it's off the cuff, just be like, okay, I'm gonna move mountains for the Lord.
mm-mm. um, that kind of touches on what like my thinking has been with
Mm.
this topic, right? Because I mentioned like, oh, you know, dying is the easy, quote unquote, easy way to sainthood.
Mhm.
It's not like just. It's not because dying isn't the thing that gets you sainthood, right? It's what you said about living
Right.
for the Lord.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to explore, right? Like I wanted to explore what living for the Lord means and how that then becomes dying for the Lord,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
And again, I think we've like touched on bits of it in our last martyrdom episode because you mentioned like the types of martyrdom. Like
Mhm.
there are two types of martyrdom that like don't involve dying. Was it
Mhm.
like white and green? Was it? I forget. Because like red martyrdom is the one where you die because your blood is red,
Right.
and then there's like the other two.
Was green martyrdom the one where you don't die, but you do uh, like, you go through suffering, like great suffering?
No, I think that I think they no, they're both like different types of suffering. I think it was like white and green. Uh, I think white was like persecution, but
Okay.
not dying, and then
I think
green
I looked it up.
was
So I found the article that I was referring to back when we first did it.
nice.
So red martyrdom refers to physically giving one's life, so bearing witness unto death. Red in this case is associated with the shedding of blood. So yeah, like you said,
Yep.
red death blood. Green martyrdom, on the other hand, is more specific and focuses on extreme penance and fasting. Ah, yeah, extreme penance and fasting out of love of God.
Mm-hmm.
So like Saint Francis, I think, like was a good example of this one. Many other saints, but like I don't know, he's the one that came to my mind, top of my head. And then the last one is white martyrdom, which, oh yeah, so white martyrdom is the one where you're being persecuted for your faith.
Yeah,
Yeah, going through great suffering. So like the likes of Cardinal Pell and Jesus. I guess Jesus is all three of the martyrdoms, really, in essence,
correct. Yeah,
the ultimate martyr.
I mean all of the saints follow in the example of Christ,
Mm.
and we're called to follow in the example of Christ. So that all
Hmm.
checks out.
Yep.
Um, I think what I want to talk about is not so much. Maybe it's not even martyrdom, right?
Yep.
Like, because like I'm not being persecuted, and I'm still here. Like I'm not dying anytime soon. No one's coming to shank me because I have a Catholic podcast that has 4 subscribers on YouTube. Uh,
Right.
now like I could like starve myself to attempt to get the green martyrdom.
Mm.
Um, but like, I mean, I'm stumbling here, but like, fasting is a whole like other topic with its own complexities.
Mm.
Uh, but like outside of those 3 things, right? Because like I can't fast all the time from everything ever.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, like no, put it this way: the saints who live for Christ, like they're not saints of fasting. They're not like it's not the only thing they did. Like
Right.
the fasting was subordinate to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they fasted for the sake of getting closer to the Lord. They fasted for um, like it was a part of something else, right? Like they fasted to repent, or they fasted in reparation, or they fasted in something. I don't know. I think those are the 2 main ones, right? Your own
Right.
penance for yourself or penance for others. Um, so like when I think about this idea of living for the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the sticking points with that idea for me is like that's not a very glamorous. Doesn't sound like a very glamorous thing.
Mm.
Or like like you see some saints who do like the big great things, but again, we've touched on this in other episodes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes what the Lord is calling me to do is live in the mundanity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm just trying to pull up a quote that I read on from an article a while back. This article isn't even about martyrdom, strictly speaking, but it was about a bit of a depressing article actually. It was about how modern parishes aren't really like doing anything as far as forming their congregations in the faith.
Oh.
Um, but he sort of goes on a little tangent about martyrdom because I guess like every faithful is supposed to be prepared to
Mm-hmm.
witness unto death, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're all called to take up the cross and follow after the Lord, and the cross leads to Calvary. So,
Right.
etc., etc. So yeah, he's comparing the Apostle James and the Apostle John, the two brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and the Apostle James gets martyred and he dies,
Mm-hmm.
but John doesn't die, but he lives a long life of he lives a hard life, abuse and exile. Is what this article says.
Right.
And he like faithfully serves the church and his community, and he writes the letters and the gospel and the revelation and
Yep.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he compares these two figures to a coin, like a Roman coin. And on this coin, there's an ox facing an altar and a plow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an inscription saying, ready for either. And so, like, he's basically saying that we as Christians, and like St. James and St. John, like, we need to be ready to be sacrificed on the altar, as like, that's like the red martyrdom, the dying,
Yeah. Right.
or we have to be prepared to like live the life of service on the plow.
Mm.
Um, and like the article calls it a white martyrdom, even though it's not necessarily persecution.
Mm-hmm.
It's just labor. Um, that was a whole rambly thing, and I don't even know where I was going with that. But like, I don't know. What do you think of that? All that, Desh?
Yeah. I mean, so they're effectively saying you have a choice to either like live your life for the Lord or like give it up for the Lord. Is that if am I interpreting that correctly?
No, it's not so much a choice. But like
Mm.
to live for the Lord and like to
Yeah.
give your life to the Lord
Yeah.
will result in one of these two things. You
Right.
will either die or you will labor, or both. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's like you got to be ready for both.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and there's a whole tangent about like joy and stuff that like we're not saying
Yeah.
that the Christian life is a life of drudgery. It's meant to be drudgery.
Mm.
Definitely don't go like inflicting pain upon yourself to
Yeah.
like tick the box or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but like sufferings will come whether they be death or labor.
Mhm.
Yeah, the article just sort of goes on to say they're like, well, the modern day parish doesn't really do much for either, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
that's a discussion for smarter people than me. It's outside of my pay grade.
Fair enough. Did I lose you there for a second?
No, I'm still here. I just
No,
stopped
okay, cool.
looking.
Yeah,
It
no, I
stopped
mean,
yapping.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but like, it's still like going back to the crux of like my initial thing. It's still like, how do we live up to these people? Like, how do we live up to the saints? Like, do we like, yeah, like we need to work the plow, so to speak, but like, do we actively need to be striving to do great things for the Lord? If you get what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Like, do we, or is it okay to just live our Christian life and just live, like work, like, do your obligations, like go to Sunday mass? Um, like, obviously you should be going beyond that, but yeah, I guess that's my question. To
mhm.
what extent are we obligated to go beyond that?
Right. I actually was listening to a podcast that might help inform this, like this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was an episode of the Catholic Gentleman podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is like our podcast but better. I
I
shouldn't say
see.
that.
I see.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but like yeah, like it's the same sort of
Yeah.
it's men focused, but like how to live good Catholic life, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the episode was about uniformity with God's, like how to determine God's will
Right.
was the title of the episode. I'm trying to like search it up. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Get the show notes. Um, and so like they had the guest speaker on it, the book about it, and the book is pretty much just like the author's reflections on Saint Alphonsus Liguori's text, "Uniformity with God's Will," and something I heard in the podcast and something that shows up in that text by Saint Alphonsus, is this idea that like you can do goodwill, like you can do good things, but you can do good things that aren't what God wants you to do. And if you do good things that aren't in God's will, like if you're not acting in God's will, that's bad.
Huh? How can you do good things outside of God's will?
Well, a real like easy example is like the hypocrite or the manipulator, right?
Yeah.
So like they can do like an act of kindness, but they're doing it to put you in their debt, and so like it's not a good. They're not doing it for like good reasons. Like that's an obvious, easy and obvious way to do good. That's not good.
Yeah. Okay.
But like I think what Saint Alphonsus is talking about like touches on that, but it really like resonates with me, with my anxieties about like what do I need to do, and like trying to do the big things.
Yeah.
Because, like in the letters of Saint Paul, Saint Paul always talks about how we're all members of the body.
Yeah.
And like every member of the body has a different role to play. And we've touched on this in a past episode, I can remember now, about how like even like the most menial job is a job that needs to be done.
Yep.
And so if our role is the menial role, like not that we have to like be comfortable with mediocrity, but like we don't have to be anxious about doing big things necessarily. Because I know like all of the cool saints did cool and big and amazing things. But fundamentally what every single saint did was what God asked them to.
Right.
And so what you need to do is be in tune with that. And that is hard, can confirm. And so like all of the extra masses and all the prayers and everything, like that's like the whole point is so like you build that relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so you can like hear him better.
Yeah.
And it's not like ticking the box for like holy points. Which is a easy trap that I fall into all of the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So, like, do I need to go start hospitals all over the world, like Mother Cabrini?
Has God asked you to do that?
No.
And no.
Mm.
Do you know what God has asked you to do with yourself at this moment in time?
I feel like that's a very difficult question to answer.
Have you asked him what he wants you to do?
I think, yeah, I have, and I don't know, like vocation-wise, I feel like I have an idea,
Yeah.
but like beyond that is like, I guess I haven't really asked beyond that, to be honest. Like, I always ask, what am I meant to do? Like, what is my vocation? But I never ask, like, just what am I meant to do with my life?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't begrudge like a certain shout out Weberman. I'm going to bring him into this again because we love Weberman. Like, I wouldn't say Weberman isn't like, from what I've seen of him, like I would say he's not living up to his
Oh, no. Yeah,
role or
100%. I
calling.
agree. Yeah, definitely.
And he's just doing his thing. Like he's not starting hospitals like
True.
Mother Cabrini.
I mean, he is a doctor.
He is a doctor, right? But like that's kind of just his job.
True.
I mean, in a way, like starting orphanages and hospitals was Mother Cabrini's job, right? Like she was, she was initially sent out as like, I don't know, like I don't know. She wanted to start an orphanage. Like there's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah.
The interplay between your own desires and God's plan for you. Yeah, again, tangents upon tangents. This is what I was getting at, right? Like living for the Lord is a lot more difficult and complicated than just, saying you're Catholic and getting shot.
Dang.
And like, so like I sort of know that like the Lord isn't gonna give me that opportunity
Mm-mm.
if I'm not actually like living for Him.
Yeah.
He's very kind in that way.
Mm.
No point giving me the final exam if I haven't even done chapter 2 of the textbook.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. Cool.
Um, yeah, have I answered your questions at all? I don't know.
I think so. I feel that I don't need to start a bunch of hospitals now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of what you should be doing now?
Kind of. Like again, what you said about Weatherman was actually pretty helpful. So yeah, I think that gave me an idea.
Yeah, usually what the Lord wants you to do happens to be right in front of you.
Mm, true,
Uh,
true.
it's why like spending all your time on the internet isn't necessarily the healthiest thing, particularly like the news cycle.
But but that's my job.
No, it's not.
It's literally my job to be on
Okay,
the
yeah,
internet.
you work on. Okay, yeah, no, but you don't. Your job isn't to like monitor the news.
Ah, no, I don't know whose job
That
that
would be
is.
someone's job actually. I don't know what to do about that.
When you say monitor, as in
I
like
mean,
control what goes in through the news,
not control, but like I'm sure there is a job. Like I'm sure it's someone's job to like
make sure what's
watch
going on in the news
the
is actually
news.
meant
Like
to be going on.
like yeah, fact checking. That's yeah, fact checking is
That's definitely that's a huge one.
yeah. They gotta watch the news.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure there is someone. I don't know
but
if that
even
like
then,
I don't know if there's someone that like watches the broadcast before it goes out though.
uh, depends on the broadcast.
It's live. Isn't the whole point of that's true, it does, but like most of like the news broadcasts are live.
They are.
I don't know. I don't really watch the news anymore.
Yes, they
I
are.
haven't
They
watched the
are.
news on the TV. I don't even
No,
know
yeah,
how to
no,
put the news on
they are
the
live.
TV.
The
They
news
are
is
live,
live.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the whole idea behind it, but it's live.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all fake these days. Everything's fake.
True.
It's
It
all
is. It is.
ugh.
This is why I don't watch the news. It's all manipulated.
Yeah. On both sides, just to be clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'll get my news from the only source that really matters, which is the grass. Go touch it. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Time check.
We are at 25 minutes.
Okay. Also time check for you. You got a jet off relatively soon.
Yeah, I got a bit more time.
Okay. Um.
Did you have any questions, I guess, that like sort of were raised by this topic? Like
Uh.
how do you feel about like martyrdom and those two perspectives that we're talking about, dying for the Lord and living for the Lord?
I mean, like I wouldn't say I'm like, content with like what I'm doing with myself.
Mm.
But at
Mm.
the same time, like also I am kind of like at a bit of peace with what I'm doing. Um,
Right.
because it's like maybe I don't have all the answers just yet, but I am trying
Mm-hmm.
to get closer to the Lord
Yep.
day by day.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Um, I have the beginnings of a question, but I can't like when you have that like feeling or like there's something you
Yeah.
want to ask, but like you don't know what it is you want to ask. Probably not gonna figure it out until like you
After the
take a
episode.
shower. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of the concept of the question, or even that's up in the air?
Um, it's got something to do with martyr. I think I've got it.
Mm.
Um, would it when it comes to like living for the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And like martyrdom being virtuous, like should you carry yourself in a way that like invites people to attack you? Because
Oh,
like I'm sure
I
you
don't
and I
think
could
so.
both think of examples of like divisive Christians or like Christians who like pick fights. There's an
Mm.
example, right? Like that's like the obvious way to get someone to like punch you.
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you live for the Lord, and how do you like preach, especially, right? Like how do you go and proclaim the gospel in a way that like, particularly like the divisive aspects of it,
I
in a
think
way that like isn't self-aggrandizing, like you know what I mean? Like you know these sorts of
I
people are
do. I do.
like
Yeah.
they seem to deliberately inflame fights and then like relish in the fight, you know?
Look, I think a key thing with that is you have to do that to people that want to hear what you're saying. Like, you can't force someone to listen to you. You can't force someone to believe your ideals or like even accept them. You can, if they want to hear about it, you can tell them. Um, if they ask about it, definitely tell them.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like they want to know about it, or if you feel like they would benefit from knowing about it, and you just ask them, "Hey, can I tell you about this?" And they say, "Yeah, sure, go for it." If they say no, then you can't really like no means no.
Yeah.
Sort of like it sort of takes me back to like and you would remember the episode that we had with Alexia, and she was talking
Yeah.
about like her friend Teresa and how like she was like instrumental in her conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Like like Alexia went to Teresa and was like, "Hey, can you tell me more about Catholicism? Like, I'd like to know a bit more." And she asked her like a bunch of questions. Like, it wasn't Teresa saying, "Hey, you listen."
Yeah, to
Because
shout
the
out Teresa,
scenario
like
would have, yeah, like
she
the scenario
definitely
could have gone a
would.
very different way if she had just been like, "Yeah, this is like this is what you should be doing." Rather,
Mm,
she said, "This is what I do. Would you like to join me?"
right. Yep, yep, yep.
And I think
That makes
that's
sense.
the right approach to go about. I mean, there's no one right approach, but I think that's a good approach to go about it.
Yeah. There's no one right approach, but there's definitely a lot of wrong approaches.
Mm, agreed. Yeah.
Put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's reassuring
Mm,
because especially in like more conservative circles,
yeah.
and the internet especially, get off the internet.
Oof.
Um,
Yeesh.
Twitter. Well, sorry, the X formerly known as Twitter. Gross.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like yeah, there's a lot of that sort of like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
that's not yeah.
Indeed.
I think I'm done. Like I'm spent. I got nothing
Yeah.
to
I'm
add.
just trying to think if I got any more last thoughts. I think the consensus from us is that it is okay to just go on like living your life unless you feel like God is calling you to something else, like beyond what you're doing right now, then by all means go and seek it out. But like if you don't feel like calling, if you feel like your calling is to just live life the way you are now, like aspiring to live a virtuous life, and then yeah, like that's okay, I think is what I've gotten from what like Charlie said as well. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Just when you are called to something, act on it.
yeah. That's big. Um,
Yeah, that's the big one. That's hard as well though. Like, and you often hear about saints that like struggled with that. Like they heard that calling and it's like, I don't know, and then eventually they followed the calling. I'm trying to think of a saint that
I
did
don't
have
know
that.
if I don't know if he's a saint, but I know
Mm.
one guy in the Bible actively rejected a call and got eaten by a fish for his trouble.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that guy. Shout
Yeah,
out Jonah. One day how he's doing.
don't
Um,
know.
that's probably like a whole other. I don't know if we have time. It's like approaching 30 minutes.
Mm.
I'll chuck it on the list, but like the whole other thing is like, how do you know what the call is? Like, how do you know what is a call?
Ooh, we could talk about that next week because it's like it pretty much ties into what we've been talking about. Does it though? I mean, yeah, it does. It ties into what we've been talking about today.
Well, yeah, like it ties in the sense that it literally
Like we're
follows on.
talking about martyrdom and like yeah, we're talking about we started off talking about martyrdom, but then we said not everyone's call is martyrdom, essentially.
Yeah, like we're all called to martyrdom of a sort, but
Of
like
a
not
sort,
everyone is
yes.
called to uh,
Give their life. Yeah.
die violently. Yeah, not everyone's called to get barbecued. like Saint
Yeah.
Lawrence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
He's the
All right.
funniest saint.
Yeah.
He gets
He's probably having a laugh up there, just like patron saint of barbecue. Yeah.
patron saint of barbecues. And when he's being grilled alive, he tells his captors to turn him over because he's done.
What a boss. What a boss.
Yeah, Saint's cool. Really into
Yes.
it. But yeah, we can
Yeah,
look at
I
that
got
topic.
nothing. Other than that.
While I type it up, do you want to get into prayer intention?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the bog standard this week. Let me see. I guess we pray. This might be stealing an intention from next week, but I pray that we all sort of are able to listen to the call if we feel like we have one at the moment. And yeah, that we're able to use that to give glory to the Lord basically, because that's why we're here. Like we're here to live out our lives for the Lord. Yeah, we can pray that we can do that.
Yeah, well said.
What about you?
Yep, so you gave me the bog standard, so I'll take it. I pray for all the conflicts throughout the world that are still ongoing, particularly, the big ones, Ukraine, Russia,
Yep.
Israel, Palestine, and
Yep.
all the other smaller ones that nobody talks about. Because,
Africa, Congo, yeah.
yeah. I heard there was stuff in Myanmar like a
Oh,
year ago. I
really?
don't know what's happened to that. Yeah.
Okay.
There's stuff all over the place, and even just like the even pettier stuff like crime and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Yep. Sounds the bog standard. And on my part, I pray that we have a zeal to live for the Lord. Like, like I'm vaguely worried that like my initial train of thought was like almost suicidal, in a sense.
Yeah.
Like it was a quote unquote easy way out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
Judge.
alright, so first of all, like, I will pray for like those who are actively, going through a rough time and actively thinking about that sort of thing. I pray that they find, what's the word? Like, I pray that they stick around. I don't know how to say it elegantly. It's good that they're here. But yeah, and I pray that like all of us, have like a sort of zeal. Like we didn't even touch on that. Having a zeal for the Lord, having a zest, because we sort of mentioned it. Like even though it is like the plow and labor and all that sort of thing, there is joy, and we are meant to like live. Like we're meant to have like joy in the Lord. So, yeah, I pray for that. That probably didn't make any sense, but God's smart enough to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that'll do. Hope you enjoyed listening to that. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Yep. If you didn't, let us know. chadsbychrist@gmail.com. Feedback is always appreciated. Either way. Sorry?
You can also DM us on Insta.
Yes, we do have an Insta.
Or comment on our YouTube.
Yes.
Any feedback. Anything.
Yeah, any feedback. I'm so lonely. Talk to me. But yeah, either way, like we hope to catch you in the next one. So yeah, take care. God bless.
Thanks, guys. God bless. Bye.